raised in this trial are complicated and important in two different senses. Firstly, there's the actual details of the case itself, the allegations that are raised and whether they're true or not, or whether they're capable of being proved. But perhaps more fundamentally, freedom of speech. The imbalance in the libel laws between those that have money and those that don't creates a real risk that criticism will be stifled, purely and simply because those without money cannot afford to stand up and try to prove what they say is true. Firstly, it puts some emphasis on the need for McDonald's to... That was bound to happen at some stage, wasn't it? Hello?
Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear will shock you to the core. The pressure on Keir Starmer's leadership has reached a critical point, and it's all connected to one grand event, a 3 million strong online election petition that is shaking the foundations of British politics. People are demanding general elections, and this movement cannot be ignored. We are on the verge of a historic moment that could dramatically change the future of the UK. At today's debate in Parliament, this petition will take centre stage, showing how deeply the public has lost confidence in Starmer. This is not just another action of online activism. It's a call to action, a demand for change from the very people Starmer promised to serve. The truth is that this petition reflects much more than dissatisfaction with the Labour leader. It is a reflection of the growing public discontent with the entire political system. So join us as we tell you what this means, why it's happening, and what it could mean for the future of the UK. It's not just a number, it's 3 million votes calling for a general election.
We will, of course, protect the principles we all cherish and that you all work to every day. Care free at the point of use, treatment according to need. Key principles. But to catapult the service into the future, we need an NHS that is reformed from top to bottom. Millions of extra appointments, signed, sealed and delivered with the plan that we are launching here today. National renewal in action. You know, people have long said we couldn't do this. I'm sure they said that to you as well. This sort of wallowing in a fatalism about the potential of this country.
The number of petitions continues to grow, and it is becoming quite obvious that the public is on edge. People feel betrayed by the Labour leader, who promised a new approach but instead brought only bitter disappointment and unfulfilled promises. They are no longer going to allow him to remain in power without responsibility. This petition is a cry from the soul of the nation, and it cannot be ignored. The Parliament is due to discuss the fate of this petition today. Will the demands for holding elections be seriously considered? A recent poll showed that his approval rating has collapsed to just 39%, which is a catastrophically low figure for a party leader. This is far from the promising numbers he had when he was just starting his career. 39% approval is a wake-up call that says people no longer support him. Starmer, who took over as leader of the Labour Party, now feels betrayed and abandoned. His unfulfilled promises, inaction, and disappointing leadership have created a vacuum in the Labour Party. And now people are demanding answers. They want to know when their voices will be heard.
You gave an interview the other day in which you implied that it would be justified for Israel to cut off Gaza's power and water supply. Is that what you meant?
Well, I welcome this question because I know that LBC clip has been widely shared and caused real concern and distress in some Muslim communities. So let me be clear about what I was saying and what I wasn't saying. I was saying Israel had the right to self-defense, and when I said that right, it was that right to self-defense. I was not saying that Israel had the right to cut off water, food, fuel or medicines. I'm very clear. Israel must have that, does have that right to defend herself, and Hamas bears responsibility.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation.
The public is no longer going to be silent when it comes to its future. People are demanding changes, and that's why the petition is gaining such incredible popularity. These are not just numbers, they are a cry from the soul, an alarming signal that cannot be ignored. Let's recall some of the promises that Starmer made but never fulfilled. When he was elected leader of the Labour Party, he made ambitious statements promising, "I will become a leader who will carry out social reforms and create a more just society." But where are these reforms? Where is the justice he promised the working class who feel betrayed by the Tories?
Well, I'm very concerned about Keir Starmer's remarks about the Bangladeshi community. I mean, he seemed to be, he was under pressure in a Sun debate, and he said, oh, those folk from Bangladesh, we're not sending enough of them back to Bangladesh. But what it does is to betray a very hostile attitude to one of the key valuable communities in our country. I mean, in Scotland, the Bangladeshi community is hugely valued. They're known as one of the hard-working communities of our country. And Keir Starmer should think shame on himself.
Starmer's radical politics have completely alienated those who once believed in him. His unfulfilled promises on vital issues such as tuition fees, healthcare, and public services have left millions of people feeling deeply betrayed. They expected him to be their protector, but instead they were ignored and disappointed. That's why the petition is gaining momentum. It's a way for the public to declare that we deserve better, that we won't tolerate it anymore. Now we return to the petition, to the 3 million signatures that have become a real political storm. Today, when Parliament is debating whether to seriously consider this petition, it is impossible to ignore the public sentiment.
I know, the trouble is he's got himself into some sort of debate with the Tories about immigration and asylum, and he's trying to show he's tough and he's hard and all the rest of it. But that's no excuse for treating one of the key communities of Scotland in that sort of way, key communities of the UK for that matter. And the Bangladeshi people should know that Alapa value your contribution. We want you here. We would like more people here so they can work and be part of our community going forward, and judge people on the scale of their contribution to the country, not on the colour of their skin.
And they're demanding it right now. The petition is already spreading rapidly, and I don't know if you've seen it on other social platforms, but the more you look at it, the crazier it seems. However, these are not just numbers, they are the powerful cry of millions of people who are eager for a general election. Do you remember how we collected signatures for a second Brexit referendum? This petition is not just a collection of data. She embodies the anger, frustration, and hope of millions of voters who feel their voices have been ignored and ignored. 3 million people have stood up to Starmer's leadership and are demanding a general election. This is not just a call for another debate, it is a call for action for the changes that are so necessary. It's time for people to make their demands known and show that they are not going to remain in the shadows. How will the Parliament react to such pressure? Will they listen to this powerful voice, or will they consider it another protest? The stakes are as high as ever. Year after year, unfulfilled promises continue to pile up, and one of the most devastating betrayals has been Starmer's stance on tuition fees. People are tired of words, they require action.
Just getting back to this defence budget, Starmer knew he wasn't going to put that up. I don't care what anyone says. He will have predicted, he'll have enough experts whispering in his ear and saying this is the situation. He more than implied that, the defence departments were going to get a fair share of money. They were going to be up in the ante. There was going to be new investment with them, bearing in mind the decline they've been in for the last 12 years or so, and it ain't going to happen. And you know what? He knew it wasn't going to happen. That almost verges on lies.
During his election campaign, he promised to abolish tuition fees, a move that raised hopes among many young voters who were suffering from crippling debts. But just a few months into his reign, Starmer completely changed his mind. A man who once vowed to make education accessible to all has suddenly turned his back on this policy. This betrayal was a blow to the heart for the youth who trusted him and dreamed of a bright future. They felt that their generation who had invested their hopes in him had been deceived. It is not surprising that these young voters have become one of the most active supporters of the petition. They require not just empty promises, but real, tangible changes. Another reason why the petition has caused such a stir is the ongoing cost of living crisis. People are facing rising energy bills, skyrocketing food prices, and massive inflation. It's not just statistics, it's a real struggle that families face every day. Share your thoughts in the comments. See you next time.